Remember, if you like this video, don't forget to press the subscribe button and press the notification bell so you will be alerted to when I have new videos. Welcome to another episode of Mach Fishing. This is the second and final part of a two-part interview with Nomadic Fanatic. Let's continue to listen as he passes along what he's learned while trying to fish the world.
Just go to Tecolote, park right on the beach, and then you got the Sea of Cortez out there, and and then you can launch your kayak right from the beach.
Did you have your car
El
there?
Sargento, same thing.
Did you have your car there at that location?
I did. I went to
That you
Tecolote.
drove.
I don't recommend it. It's not the best fishing.
Okay.
But for camping, it's pretty simple.
Okay.
And it's pretty nice. It's pretty beautiful.
Now, when you go to Australia, you're not going to be car camping, I guess. You're going to.
Well, I'm going to try to.
Airbnb?
I want to get a vehicle.
Mhm.
I want to get a vehicle I can sleep in.
Okay.
And then I want to outfit it while I'm there. And then I want to buy a kayak. So I'm going to buy a lot of stuff in Australia, and then I'm planning to sell it when I leave.
Okay.
And we'll see how that goes. This is experimental. It's the first time I'm flying to another continent.
Right.
It's the first time I'm buying a vehicle at my destination and selling it. All of this is a first. So we're going to see what happens. Hopefully I don't lose my shirt.
Right.
Because I'm not a millionaire. I don't have a ton of money. So, I got to do all this on the cheap.
Well, it looks like you're doing a lot of research there.
Yeah.
That's
So I figure out how to do things
pages
cheaply. I mean, like I said, I'm staying in Sydney for $30 a night, right?
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's by the way, it's a 5-minute walk from the train. So I can get almost anywhere in Sydney 5 minutes from that house.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's got free cancellation up to like 5 days before. So if something happens and I can't make my flight or whatever, I can cancel this thing and not lose my shirt too.
Oh, that's pretty good.
And then, like I said, it has a pool and everything. So it's pool, kitchen, etc. It's amazing. So yeah, I mean, I find these deals and then I go with them. And Airbnbs are great. I highly recommend them.
Okay. I've never tried
met
one before.
a ton of real. You have never tried them? Oh
Never
my gosh.
tried one.
Oh my gosh, they're wonderful. I highly, highly, highly recommend Airbnb.
Okay.
Highly. I don't think I could give them more stars than that.
Amazing.
Yeah, they are, so far for me, they've been fantastic. I've never had a bad experience. Here's an example. I went to British Columbia,
Okay.
and it was tough. I went to Campbell River, another one of my top 10 spots to fish in North America, Campbell River. And we can talk about top 10 spots or whatever if you want at some point. We can also talk about some of the fish fights and stuff that I've had. Which have been amazing, and some of the big creatures I've seen too. I figure we can cover some of that. What was the name? Campbell River. So I went to Campbell River. Fishing was awesome there. So I was like, oh man, I got to find a good spot where I can hunker down here.
Campbell River. That's
Campbell River's on Vancouver Island, British Columbia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's really cool because it's on. The funny thing about the West Coast is you can be on the ocean, right? But you're really it's almost like an estuary because, there's so many islands along the coast.
Right.
Above Washington State, you start seeing just hundreds of islands along the coast. And they shield all that big wave and tidal flow action from, in places. Right. Some places the tide will rip through there and carry you out to sea. And you talk to the tackle shops and stuff, and they educate you and let you know, don't go down there. You'll be swept away. That kind of stuff. But so at Campbell River there were a number of really safe put-ins. The water was deep and the water was cold, so you have to be prepared for that. So I wore a semi-dry top. In that location. I finally found one. That was another big challenge for my trip. But anyway,
no dry suit.
We can cover that. No, what I have is dry pants from Kokatat. And then I have a semi-dry top, which doesn't have the gasket. The gasket, I can't wear.
Chokes you.
I've tried it.
Yeah, same
And
thing.
it freaks me out, and I just can't do it. And so I'm not using my $500 dry top, so why buy it? And I owned one for a long time, never used it because I just couldn't stand it. But the semi-dry doesn't have a what do they call it? Latex gasket. It has a different kind of neck.
Latex rubber.
It's rubber, and it squeezes your neck. You have to get used to it, but it's bearable for me. I can use that, but it's not going to keep all the water out 100%. If you fall in, you need to get back in your kayak pretty fast because water's going to gradually seep in there.
Right.
But it does have the rubberized
gaskets on the wrist.
Gaskets on the wrists and around the neck and around the waist. So it's sealed pretty tight, and it's pretty effective. So I'm very happy with it.
All right.
But anyway, what was I going to say? Oh, so at Campbell River, we were talking about Airbnbs. So Campbell River, I decided, wow, I really don't want to boondock here because I really want to set up shop, and then that frees me up, gives me more time to do other stuff. Because if I got to pull all my gear out every night, set it all up, blah, 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 at some free site. Because I'm not going to leave all my gear out, my camp stove and stuff out at some boondock spot in the middle of nowhere where anybody can drive along and steal it. I'm not going to do that. So I need a spot that's secure, somewhat secure, where I can set up shop. And this spot was great. It was an Airbnb find, and it was a weird place, very weird. I've never seen a place this crazy because it was old property right on the water, right on the ocean in Campbell River, with beach access and a picnic table out there and everything.
Oh.
So I could literally launch my kayak from this site. It was a challenge, but I could do it. And then the camping arrangement was a house where you had kitchen privileges and bathroom privileges, hot water, a hot shower, etc. But you couldn't sleep in the property. Didn't have a bedroom. So you're not renting a bedroom in a house. I slept in my van at night, and then I was able to use the kitchen and bathroom. I could get a shower after a long day on the water. I could cook my dinner in the kitchen. I could keep my food in the refrigerator. Right. I could wash my dishes in the sink.
What about drying your clothes and stuff like that?
I could wash and dry my clothes. They had a washer dryer. All of that.
There you go.
Right on the property. You had to share it with other campers, right?
Oh, okay.
So other people
like a communal
also would
kitchen
come
and
there.
Washer dryer.
Other people came to this place and set their tents up and
That's
stuff,
not too bad.
or slept in their van. So I was sharing it occasionally. But it was just way too easy to do. Basically, it was kind of like having a house to myself, everything except the bedroom.
Exactly.
And I didn't mind sleeping in my van. It was great.
You had your peace and quiet.
Because the weather was nice. It was in the 50s and 60s every night. It was good sleeping weather, no problem. And then when I had to go to the bathroom, I just went in the house, used their bathroom.
Okay.
So it was great, and and so I could refrigerate all my food and all that jazz. It was just so nice and easy, and it only cost like $25 a night.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you know how to find the deals, Harry.
Cheap as a campground, right?
Right. Or cheaper in some cases.
And cheaper than a lot of campgrounds.
I've been in some campgrounds that was like $40 a night with electric.
Oh, absolutely. California, they're like $50 a night. With nothing.
Yep. Exactly.
Except water.
Okay.
Yeah. Water in a bathroom, and it's $50 a night.
Yeah.
California, don't waste your time going through California. The fishing ain't that great. Access to the water sucks most of the places, except around San Francisco.
Right.
And the camping is ridiculously expensive.
Right.
Everything's expensive in California. The gasoline's expensive, the camping's expensive, the food's expensive. It's insane. They grow half of that food there, and it's still more expensive than it is here. It's
Wow.
like, why? Why is this orange costing me more in California than it would in North Carolina?
Right.
I don't get it. It's crazy.
Wow.
It's cuckoo. So anyway, don't waste your time there.
That's good. That's good information.
Go to Mexico. Go to Baja for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Cheap, cheap, cheap. Food's cheap. Food's half price in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they grow it all down there, and they're bringing it over by the shipload from the mainland to Baja. So they'll just ship it right into La Paz, and then they have these great, huge markets full of fruterias.
Right.
So you just go to a fruiteria and buy all your produce there. Learn a little bit of Spanish. It pays. Try to speak the language. And wow, I was really pleasantly surprised with Baja California. And the fishing was extraordinary in certain places.
Okay.
You want to talk about some hot spots?
Yeah. Give us some hot spots.
So on the West Coast, like I said, best fishing was the Baja Peninsula, British Columbia, Vancouver Island, British Columbia, and then in Alaska.
Okay.
And so my top spots in each of those would be in Baja. It would be Coyote Lagoon. Mm-hmm. It's on the west coast of the peninsula.
Okay.
It's in the middle of nowhere. You're basically driving down a very sketchy, remote road that's 50 miles long through a desert that has nothing. Absolutely nothing. There's nothing on that road. No water, no gas, no nothing. And Baja's like that. It's a little spooky. You can drive for like 100 miles without seeing a gas station in Baja.
Oh, wow.
Make sure you fuel up when you go down there. LA Bay, you drive into LA Bay, you're going to go 150 miles without ever seeing a gas station. And it's so scarce there that once in a while you encounter a roadside stop place with just a tent set up, and then a guy with a couple of tanks, gas cans, in case you're running out of gas and you're in the middle of nowhere. So you can buy it from this guy probably for $5 a gallon or something.
Oh my God.
Or $10.
Right, yeah, I was about to say maybe $10.
Probably $10 a gallon for him.
Probably $7.
Luckily, I never had to use that guy.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, in Baja, fuel up whenever you can. But yeah, this is a super remote place, but the fishing was insane.
Okay.
I caught in 10 days there. I caught close to 1,000 pounds of fish.
Wow.
So I was averaging almost 100 pounds of fish a day at this spot. And most of it's Corvina, and then some big California halibuts.
Oh, wow.
The biggest halibut I've ever caught, a 15-pounder. Caught some 10-pound, caught a 12-pounder as well.
Like a giant flounder.
Caught anyway, I think I caught over 30 halibut there, and then I caught 234 Corvina, and every one of them was over 18 inches long. Wow. So every one of them was over 3 pounds. So the average Corvina, a bunch of Corvina in the 5-pound range, and then the biggest was world class. I mean, the biggest Corvina was a 29-inch 8-pounder. So yeah, and that's like 8.5-pounder, I think. So that was like world class Corvina. World record is like 10 pounds or something.
Wow.
So yeah, it was up there. But and then they're runners. They're
this
like
is all West Coast.
They're kind of like a West Coast trout.
Okay.
It's the West Coast version of a speckled trout. And to catch,
did you eat them?
234 of those suckers in 10 days. Just insane.
Did you eat them?
I ate some Corvina. In my opinion, they're not as good as speckled trout.
Okay.
The halibut is delicious. I ate some of that too. I like to have fish fries when I'm eating my fish. So on this journey, I had over 60 fish fries on the 3 coasts. And what I do is I'll bring back a bunch of fish, clean them all up, and then cook them up and then share it with my fellow campers.
Oh, excellent.
You know,
Popular.
Ask them to bring, a side dish or something,
Right.
and then we'll have a fish fry. And, a lot of them, the ones that like fish, that's a big treat for them because it's fresh.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
that's a lot of fun.
What about
I've made
the
a lot of
East
friends
Coast?
that way.
Any favorite places you would recommend anyone to go?
Well, the dry
Fly
Tortugas is still number one.
Okay.
And after fishing the other coasts, I still have to say you can't beat it.
Right.
Biggest bonefish I ever caught, 8.5 pound bonefish. Amazing, insane runners. The best fighting fish I've ever caught, I think, is a bonefish. They're like little. Think it. If you ever caught a redfish, it's like a redfish with jet engines on it. It's the way I like to say it. Yeah, a redfish with jet engines.
Wow.
And basically, so how a redfish will run. I mean, you hook a redfish and it'll just it takes off.
Right.
Usually, and the bonefish takes off twice as fast and twice as far.
Because they got a lot of those.
The stamina is
also
insane with a bonefish. This 8.5 pound bonefish peeled about 300 feet of line off my reel.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm sitting there, I hook up and and you're looking at your reel saying, holy cow, you start cranking down a little bit, right? To make sure you don't want to lose, you don't want to break the line, obviously, but that's always a balancing act with any fisherman.
Run out of line.
But a lot of times I'd be cranking down on that drag just to get make sure that guy didn't spool me. I mean, amazing fish. And then, that's just the first run.
Right.
So he would make another 5 runs that were shorter on top of that. So it took me close to a half an hour to land that 8.5 pounder.
Wow.
And I caught, plenty of bonefish over 5 pounds there. So imagine a 5 pound bonefish. I mean, there you're talking about, peeling 150 feet of line maybe.
Right.
It's just nuts, these runs. And there's such a blast because your reel is just singing to you. I get chills right now just thinking about it. And then the barracuda are the same way. If anything, the barracuda run faster than a bonefish.
Wow.
Their initial run, they
don't have jet engines. They have rocket engines.
The highest pitched peeling of my line I've ever heard in my life was a barracuda, a 4-foot barracuda that I hooked in the dry Tortugas.
Wow.
Absolutely insane the way he ran. I mean, it was like a different pitch, You're looking at your reel thinking, holy cow, is it going to burn up? They talk about pouring water on your reel and stuff for these barracuda. Apparently people do that, but I was looking at my reel thinking, holy cow, is it going to burn?
Man.
I burnt a reel up in the dry Tortugas. I had to replace it because it was just worn out.
Any place in North Carolina or Florida, Georgia, or Texas or anywhere else?
Okay,
that you like?
Yeah, so after the dry Tortugas...
That someone could drive to?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. So on the East Coast, next to the dry Tortugas, my favorite place to fish is the Outer Banks. Yeah, Outer Banks.
Not Florida, not Georgia, not Texas.
It would have been Mosquito Lagoon 20 years ago. Because I did fish Mosquito Lagoon about 15 years ago.
But I got a lot of fishing pressure now or something?
No, it got all polluted.
Wow.
Florida has a terrible water pollution problem south of Orlando.
Okay.
So from, on the Tampa, on the Gulf side down, and then from Mosquito Lagoon, Titusville area.
On the east side.
On down on the East Coast. All those estuaries, polluted.
Oh, wow.
There's so much development in South Florida. South Florida, to me, is like New Jersey now. I mean, you're almost like going, it's all developed.
Right.
Look at the New Jersey coast. It's just total development the entire way. When I did the East Coast, I skipped New Jersey because there's nothing natural. I think they had one little natural area on the coast,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it. South Florida's pretty much like that now on both coasts.
Wow.
It's just total development, and so that pollution has to go somewhere, and they're not treating it properly, and a lot of it's septic systems that are old.
Right.
Plus, you've got huge agricultural production in the center of the state, and the Army Corps of Engineers, in all their wisdom, decided to just pump the water from Lake Okeechobee.
Mm-hmm.
The Okeechobee water is full of pollution. It's full of nutrients from agriculture, sugarcane farms, and cattle farms, etc. And all those nutrients in Okeechobee get flushed out whenever there's a heavy rain, like 10 inches of rain. And Florida gets 10 inches of rain probably once a year. So, I mean, it's a lot of rain there. So that water gets funneled out to the coast, and then all those nutrients fill those estuaries and create these giant algae blooms.
Right.
One year it was so bad in southwest Florida along the Gulf Coast that people could literally walk on the algae blooms in their little, they couldn't get their boats out.
Right.
They were all jammed up with algae.
Wow.
And Florida has done nothing to fix this problem in the 10 years I've been fishing Florida. In the 15 years I've been fishing Florida waters, it keeps getting worse and worse every year. So Mosquito Lagoon used to be great, and then they had algae bloom after algae bloom. Kills everything. Algae kills the grass. It kills the clams. It kills the crabs. It kills the oysters. It kills the grass. So it kills all this stuff, and then it takes time for that stuff to recover. And if it's oysters, clams, and that kind of stuff, it takes years and years for them to make a comeback, right? Where are they going to come from?
Yeah. Wow.
You pretty much have to plant them. So, and then the grass takes years too. You're not going to replace all that grass in a year or two. And then of course, all the trout and the reds and whatever is in there, right?
Right.
All those fish rely on that cover and that substrate to feed off of.
No food, no protection.
They don't have any
They're
food. They don't have any protection, so they die. And they get killed in the algae bloom too.
Right.
But they never make a comeback because there's no infrastructure for them. It's been destroyed. And Florida doesn't seem to care about that. And that's what's most frustrating to me about it. They totally lack the political will to address the issue.
But the Outer Banks is a better option in your opinion.
Oh, Outer Banks is much better fishing than Mosquito Lagoon now. I talked to charter captains in the Jacksonville area that said we used to have tournaments at Mosquito Lagoon, but we canceled them because the fishing's so bad there now. We don't even have them anymore.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we've moved them. Yeah, so they know. Everybody down there knows. When I went to the tackle shop and down in Mosquito Lagoon area, because I was like, what the heck's going on around here? I was asking around, just asking people. I didn't know any of this about Okeechobee or any of that. I didn't know the problem, but I got educated by the locals. They know the problem because their livelihood depends on it, right? And I was going to boat launches that used to have 100 cars and boat trailers in them, and now they had 5. And it was like, what in the hell's going on here? On a Saturday, what? Five boats out in Mosquito Lagoon on a Saturday?
Right.
In February? Are you crazy? Or March? And so it was like, I went to the tackle shop and asked, what's going on? And they educated me. And the tackle shop owner was in tears when she described the problem to me because her business was drying up. Yeah.
Wow, that's too bad.
It's drying up. Yeah, so huge water issues in South Florida not being addressed. They have a plan of action. It's a $20 billion plan, but it never gets funded. Yeah, never gets funded. So they're not fixing their problem. So I skipped South Florida. I probably will never go back other than dry Tortugas.
Right.
And maybe the Keys, because the Keys seems to be far enough out where it's not terribly impacted by this.
Right.
But anyway, what was I saying?
You're talking about different areas
North
you
Carolina.
recommend to
So
drive.
yeah, so hot spots on the East Coast, I would say. I'm not I'm talking kayak fishing.
Exactly.
The way I like to fish, slow, skinny, light. Skip Georgia, skip South Carolina, skip the East Coast of Florida, other than dry tortugas. Jacksonville's fishing's pretty good in Florida, but it's very urban. I'm not a big fan of urban fishing.
You like the more rustic.
You're looking at, big ships going by.
Right.
You're looking at bridges. You're always around man-made stuff there in the Jacksonville area, even though the fishing's fairly good.
Okay.
And then, so I would skip it for all those reasons. And then, just head up to North Carolina, because in North Carolina, you have huge tidal flows in Georgia and South Carolina. So you'll get those 8 to 10 foot tidal flows there, and in a kayak, that can be treacherous. At a launch, I've come back to the launch in Georgia before at St. Simon's Island, and the fishing is decent there.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's terrible fishing. It's pretty good. I would say it's good fishing. Let's say good.
Okay.
Give it a good rating. What is that? Like a C+ or something?
All right.
Maybe a B- in Georgia, in St. Simon's Island. And I enjoyed it. I caught fish, but the tidal flow is so extreme there. If you launch at high tide and then come back at low, watch out, because you might not be able to get back to the launch.
Because...
And if low tide, if you're coming back at 5 at night and the sun's going to set in a half an hour at 5:30, because it's January or whatever, or February, watch out, because now you're running out of daylight. You can't get back to your launch because everything's dried up. The launch is completely dry. It's just mud.
And you can't walk through that mud.
You can't walk through it.
You'll sink.
Exactly.
Quicksand.
You are literally stuck. You have to go somewhere else. So I've avoided that like the plague. Luckily it never happened to me. But I did come back one time at St. Simon's and come up to, there was a creek launch there. And basically I had about, 6 inches of water for my kayak. So I had to remove my Mirage drive before I got even close. And then I had to paddle, and I'm paddling through kind of mud, kind of a muddy, sliding across the mud flats. Basically.
So you got close enough to shore.
And I just got back to the lawn.
Oh man.
It was something. It was a little bit scary because it was getting late, and I thought, shoot, I can't wait 3 hours, the sun, it'll be dark in 3 hours. Yeah, so you got that challenge in Georgia and South Carolina. You get the big tidal flows, and the fishing, in my opinion, ain't great. It's good in Georgia. South Carolina had other issues when I was there. They had a huge trout kill during the winter. Unseasonably big cold blast with a snowstorm in Charleston, blah, blah, blah. And all of that killed trout, and so as a result, the fishing was terrible. Yeah, so I can't recommend that. It might be good this year. I don't know.
Right.
And then getting on the water in an area that's not urban, that's a really natural area, is extremely challenging with a kayak.
In which location?
In both of those states. Because
South Carolina.
Let's say if you launch at a state park in Georgia, there was a launch there in northern Georgia at a state park, then you have to time your exit and return to go with those tides. Otherwise, you'll never get back because you're fighting so much current.
Oh wow!
You're in these narrow channels that are just getting swept out into the ocean. 8 feet of water, flowing out, flowing in. So you got to ride that stuff out and ride that stuff back in. Very challenging. You do not have any of that in North Carolina because the estuaries are huge.
Right.
We don't have, it's not so much ocean fishing as it is, sound fishing.
Right.
So you're in the Pamlico Sound, the Roanoke Sound, the Currituck Sound, etc. You're fishing one of the 5 sounds there, and the tidal flow is like 2 feet.
Hmm.
1 to 2 feet tidal flow every day, pretty much in all those spots. Now you got to be careful where you go in the Outer Banks because there are pollution issues in the Outer Banks as well.
Oh, okay.
Down south, like around Cedar Point, major challenges there because all the grass kills they've had. But the part of Outer Banks that I lived in, Nags Head area, outstanding fishing.
It's fairly clean.
To me, it's a top 5 spot in North America.
Okay.
It's up there. It's probably number 3 behind Coyote Lagoon.
So you've done a lot of fishing all over the place.
I have.
So how many different species do you think you've caught? If you had to guess, throwing it out there.
I should count them up.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually keep a spreadsheet with, and I try to track most
I'm
of
sure
my
we could
species.
follow up with you when you get back from Australia.
If I had to guess, I'd say about 40.
40 different species.
40 different kinds of fish.
And how many pounds of fish you think you caught?
And that's game fish. So
Right.
I'm not counting trash fish, like pinfish or something like that.
Right. No.
Because I do like snag a pinfish here and there. I do catch these toadfish occasionally, etc. That kind of junk.
Yeah.
But yeah, 40 different game fish probably.
And how many pounds you think? I know you were telling me something about the amount of pounds of
No,
fish
I did add that up, and I can tell you, I caught I went out about 400 times on my journey over the 3-year period, and I caught about close to 3,000 game fish, not including trash fish,
right?
But game fish, and I caught over 2 tons of game fish.
2 tons.
2 tons.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's from what, 2018, I guess, when you started?
Three different years, 2018, 2019, and then 2022. Took 2 years off for COVID.
Gotcha.
Did the West Coast last year. So I wrapped up North America last year. Yeah, and, I was surprised by the numbers on the West Coast because, the lower 48 was so challenging, so difficult, and really didn't catch many fish in the lower 48. But my goodness, between Baja, Vancouver Island, British Columbia, and Alaska, holy cow.
Lots of fish.
A lot of fish, and quite a few big ones. Quite a few over 5 pounds. To me, a big fish, because I'm slow, skinny, light, a big fish is anything over 5 pounds. I consider a big fish. Maybe even 4 pounds, really. Is a big fish. It's going to peel some line. It's going to do some running. It's going to be, going to take you a while to get them in on light tackle.
And I'm sure you've eaten a lot of fish over the last 3 years or so.
Yeah,
that you actually fished.
Like I said, I've had over 60 fish fries, close to 70 fish fries with fellow campers. Kept hundreds of fish.
Wow. And
cooked hundreds of fish over this trip. So yeah, I eat a lot of fish.
Well, Harry, that's a lot of good information.
Yeah, buddy.
I mean, we wish you well on your trip coming up.
Thank you, man.
Can't wait to hear about it and see the pictures.
Yeah.
I'll include some photos that Harry had sent out on his blog at one time on this video, so you guys can see some of the fish he caught.
Yeah.
And
my handle, my brand, if you will, is Nomadic Fishing.
Nomadic Fishing.
So I actually went ahead and produced some cards. I got them somewhere, but anyway, I got some cards now with my little logo and stuff. And I really don't want to. I'm not trying to monetize this in any way. A lot of people have encouraged me to do that. They said, "Oh, you could get sponsors, blah 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 blah, and all that." This is already taking me hundreds of hours to plan these trips. So Lord knows what it would take if I had to set up this kind of gear, learn how to use all this stuff you have, all this video equipment and stuff, and do the editing and all that jazz. I can't even keep up with my blog, writing it. So I just decided not to monetize, not to try to make any sponsorships or any of that kind of stuff.
Hey, well, I'm not trying to monetize this either, but I just want to hear all this great information.
No, if you monetize it, great, good for you. I hope you do.
No, it's not too many people do these kinds of trips, so it's great. I'm sure people would like hearing about it and seeing what you do, because I know a bunch of people that you email, they're always like biting at the bits trying to figure out what's Harry up to now, what's he catching, and seeing pictures. It looks like fun. Wish there was a group they could have gone, but
it is fun, good. And I always encourage my fishing buddies, people I know. If we fished together before, like you and I have fished together many times.
Oh yeah.
If you want to come to Australia or meet up with me in Fiji or something, I would love that. That would be fantastic. Visitors, I've had visits from about 7 or 8 people along the way. Some of them fishing buddies. Tried to do some meetups on the West Coast with fishing buddies that I met in Texas. Didn't quite pull it off. Okay. We almost met up in Oregon and fished together there, but we didn't pull it off. I have made some new fishing buddies. In Alaska, I fished with a guy from Netherlands. And it was his first time fishing, and he managed to catch a salmon while he was with me.
Oh, okay.
So it was his first time ever fishing out of a kayak, and he caught a nice pink salmon. So that was fun. Yeah, so that kind of stuff happens a lot too, and I would love to have company. So who knows? Maybe we'll meet up in Australia or something.
Yeah, when I first met Harry, he showed me how to jig for perch using artificial lures. I used to use the bait with worm technique, and he showed me how to jig for that. And then I also visited him on one of his trips at the Outer Banks, and that's where he showed me how to jig for flounder, not knowing that I would end up catching 22 keeper flounders. And back then we can keep 8, so they started calling me the flounder pounder.
Oh yeah.
But he's the fish magnet. So.
I've never seen anybody catch so many flounder before.
We have big fish fry, as he points out, and a big flounder fish fry and everything else.
That was amazing. I'll never forget that bowl of flounder fillets sitting on the table.
Well, hopefully in, late October or something like that, I'll be able to go down to the Outer Banks and we can do an oyster, crab, and fish fest.
Let's do it.
That's what we're going to do. He's going to show me how to forage for oysters. I'm going to catch the crabs, obviously. And we're all going to catch the fish, and we'll be fat and happy.
Yes, we will.
All right, Harry. Well, good luck on your trip, and
Thanks,
have no more accidents or anything else before you leave.
Hopefully. Gosh, crazy.
All right.
Thanks, brother.
Well, that is the end of our second part interview with Nomadic Fanatic as he goes on his quest to fish the world. Thanks for joining me on this 2-part series. I did talk to Harry recently, and he did make it to Australia, and right now he's looking to get a vehicle and then a kayak before he starts his new fishing adventures. I'll report anything I hear from him. Until next time, let's get cracking.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you for watching, and until next time, be sure to check out my other videos.